Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Dubro 101. Today we're going to talk about this thing. It's a wheel collar. And while wheel collars may be small and simple, they have a very important job. So we're going to talk about some simple strategies for installing wheel collars effectively. The primary job of wheel collars is to keep your model airplane's wheels where they belong, on the axles of the landing gear. And just as there are many different sizes of wheel axles, Dubro produces many different sizes of wheel collars. And the dimension noted on the package denotes the diameter of the hole through the wheel collar. And whenever possible, you want the diameter of that hole to match the diameter of your axle. In the case where there isn't a perfect wheel collar match to your axle, choose the next size larger wheel collar. Generally speaking, you want to use the smallest wheel collar you can that will fit. For this example, I have some common music wire landing gear. This portion is the axle. Now, I could use a ruler to measure the diameter of the axle, but I find that it's much easier and more accurate to use calipers. Or in a real pinch, you could simply test fit a few different size wheel collars until you find a perfect match. As it turns out, the diameter of these axles is 5/32 of an inch. So I've chosen Dubro's 5/32 wheel collars, part number 140. Note that I'll be using 2 wheel collars on each axle. Each wheel collar is secured to the axle with a set screw, and on these 5/32 wheel collars, the included set screw has 440 threads. The necessary Allen wrench is included as well. And while the set screw would likely hold just fine on an unmodified axle, it definitely works better when the axle has a flat spot for the set screw to interface with. So that's what we recommend that you do. But before we talk about how to add a flat spot to the axle, I want you to give some thought about where to add that flat spot. The location of that flat spot determines where you will have to get the Allen wrench in to tighten or loosen the set screw, and some positions may be obscured either by the proximity of the wing or wheel pants or some other component that gets in the way. I found that adding the flat spot to the bottom side of the axle works consistently well. With that location, I can place the airplane upside down in a model stand and have unrestricted access to the set screws. Now it's time to talk about how to add flat spots to your axles, and there are many different ways to do the job. If you hate yourself and feel that you're unworthy of experiencing joy, well, then you can use a manual hand file. But I should warn you up front, it's going to take you a really long time, and your flat spots will probably turn out to be, well, not that flat. At the other end of the spectrum are power tools such as an electric bench grinder. This tool actually works really well to modify music wire landing gear such as this. In fact, it works so well that you may have trouble controlling it and accidentally remove too much material. And once that material is gone, it's gone. My preferred tool for adding flat spots is a Dremel tool with a grinding bit. This combination cuts the metal at a reasonable speed and is easy to control. Here's how I do it. The first thing I'm going to do is install the landing gear in a vise to keep it steady while I work. Next, I'm going to mark the location of the inner wheel collar. And to do that, I have 2 wheel collars here, and the set screws have not been installed in either collar yet. I also have the wheel I'm going to use. In this case, it's a Dubro treaded rubber wheel with a diameter of 2 3/4 inches. So I slide on the inner wheel collar, the wheel, and now the outer wheel collar. And I align the parts so that there's just a little bit of axle remaining outside of the outer wheel collar. Now I hold the inner wheel collar in place with my fingers, remove the outer wheel collar, remove the wheel, and now I mark the location of this inner wheel collar with a Sharpie marker. And I put the marker right through the opening for the set screw. I give it a few seconds to dry, and I pull off the wheel collar, and I make sure that I mark the location extra well. Now I'm going to add the first flat spot. I have my Dremel tool with grinding bit, and don't forget to wear your safety glasses. I'm going to hold the tool perpendicular to the axle, and the flat spot of the grinding bit is in the plane where I want the flat spot on the axle to be. Your flat spot does not need to be particularly deep or wide. In fact, it only needs to be as wide as the tip of the set screw. So now I'm going to add the set screw to the inner wheel collar and install it on the axle. Now I'm going to add the wheel and the outer wheel collar and this will allow me to mark the location of the flat spot for the outer wheel collar. I'm going to use the same technique to grind the flat spot for the outer wheel collar. When the outer flat spot is done, I will test fit the wheel and outer collar to make sure everything fits the way it should. Once I am satisfied with the fit, I will remove the wheel collars and reinstall them with medium thread locker on the set screws. Some modelers prefer to use a cutting wheel rather than a grinding bit, and that's perfectly fine as long as you use only the edge for cutting and avoid using the face. The only difference when using the cutting wheel is that I hold the tool parallel to the axle rather than perpendicular. Here's a tip for setting the proper spacing of your wheel collars. With the inner wheel collar in place, insert the wheel. Now, take some of the cardstock from your wheel collar packaging. With a pair of scissors, cut a slit from the edge to the hole. Now place the cardstock over the axle. You can then insert your outer wheel collar. Push down tightly and then tighten the set screw. You can then remove the cardstock and your wheel should spin freely with no extra slop. Repeat this process on every axle and you will end up with wheel collars and wheels that stay exactly where they're supposed to on every flight. As always, thanks for watching and be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you do not miss any of our upcoming videos.